Locked On Steelers fans, I'm your host, Chris Carter. We dive into my top 100 in the NFL draft. I give you my mock draft 2.0, and we go over mock draft Monday winner here in the week before the NFL draft. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay tuned for the Armada Player of the Week later in the show. All right, Steelers fans, you've had the weekend. As I said before, we'd have the top 100 coming out for you very soon. We have it. If you wanted to read it in its in article form, it is in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, post-gazette.com. It was the front page of the sports section this weekend, but it is available, post-gazette.com. Click on the Steelers section. You'll see it right there and giving my top 100. Now, I want to remind people before they read these, because people often get confused, a top 100 is not where you think the top 100 will go. If I pick a player at 1, that does not mean I think that they're going to get picked by the Titans. If I pick a player at 21, I'm not saying that that's the player the Steelers are going to get. These are the players and how I rank them and kind of divvy them out throughout the process as far as where I put them against each other based off of their talents, how I think they'll fit in the NFL, and how I think they should be ranked for the Steelers specifically. So a lot of factors there, but again, you can read it there. Let's go over the big things that I think the Steelers have to exploit when looking at the top 100. First, we'll show some images here so you guys can see it. Here's the top 25 players that I have ranked here just on your YouTube screen. I have in the top 10, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, then Cam Ward, Will Campbell, Jahdae Barron, Armand Bimbout, Ted McMillan, Ashton Jeanty, and Tyler Warren. So those are your top 10. The Steelers ain't getting any of those guys unless like Ashton Jeanty falls and they feel like trading up for him. I really think that a real starter where the trade up could start to happen is if Will Johnson falls and they really want to go get a superstar corner, because Will Johnson looks like a superstar corner. But after that, I do think that one of the big benefits that you can see right here on this screen and the next screen I'm going to show you is the fact that when you count up a lot of these picks that would be inside like the top 30, 35, like all those players are within the range of where teams would try to probably take a shot at them in the first round. There are a lot of players at positions the Steelers don't really need to invest in right now. You look at this at your screen right now, or if you're listening right now to the podcast, I have Will Campbell, Armand Bimbout. These are all offensive tackles. Josh Simmons, Calvin Banks Jr., all as offensive tackles that I rank in the top 20, let alone the top 20, the top 25, the top 35. If you expanded it to the top 30, 35, I think I threw in, I think I have five overall offensive tackles. And then also there's 4 edge rushers in my top 25, 6 edge rushers in my top, 6 edge rushers in my top 30, 7 in my top 35. And so it depends on where you think guys will get picked at, but that's 7 edge rushers and 5 offensive tackles. That's 12 players that the Steelers legitimately don't need to take a shot at in this draft class, who could go before the Steelers pick at 21 and could further push down the players that we've been talking about, the key players, Kenneth Grant, Derrick Harmon, the 2 primary defensive tackles. Now, we'll get to the whole quarterback debate because that was part of your mock draft Monday assignment. We'll do that in the third segment. But I think it's actually a beneficial factor here for the Steelers. I rank Kenneth Grant as my 12th best player in this draft class because I rank him that high. Derrick Harmon at 15th. I really think both of those guys can be serious difference makers. And that's also partial more to the Steelers because of their needs and where I think they could fit for the Steelers and what I think those guys could do for the Steelers franchise. But still, Kenneth Grant, I think he would be a guy that would be a great fit for what the Steelers do. Now, because of this, I think a lot of teams are also looking at Kenneth Grant. So it's not a guarantee, and that's part of what we'll talk about in the next segment with my mock draft 2.0. But key things here that I want to point out with my top 100 board. So again, here's your top 25, your next 25. That's where you find the likes of Amari and Hampton, Malachi Starks, Darian Porter, Azariah Thomas, Jaden Higgins, those types of players who are potential first round picks, but more likely late, late first, early second round range. That's where I usually have those guys. But for the record, that's where I also have in this next in the next group of guys, the next group of 25 heading to 50. That's where I have Shedeur Sanders. I have him ranked at 44 on my big board, just comparing him to the players around him. And that's why I don't think that Shedeur Sanders should be the Steelers' first-round pick, nor do I think he should be a priority for them early. I think that if he falls to them in the third, that's great. That's awesome. That's perfect. That's the value you want him to be at. I think he could be there. And if you somehow wind up with a second-round pick, that's also fine. Because, again, 44, that's the 12th pick of the second round, technically, if you go look at that. So I think that would be a fine fit there. But other things that I think is really interesting here when you look at the players that are available here and where things can get really tricky about this class is that I look at this class and we see those top defensive tackles and we see how good they are at the top there. One of the questions I answered last week of people emailing is like, well, wait a minute, what we're calling in and saying, wait, Chris, if this is a good defensive tackle class, can't you just wait for a late defensive tackle? I'm like, sure you can, but you're talking about the guys in this top 25 here, potential franchise starters that last a very long time. I'd even throw Darius Alexander as a potential of being that. He ranked at 27th for me, just outside of the top 25. But then there's a fall off. I think Tyleik Williams has potential, but I think he needs to show a bit more. But when you start getting to your TJ Sanderses, I think that's when you start to run into a bit of like, okay, how much more can you do of not investing heavily into defensive tackle? And that's why I think that's going to be a priority for the Steelers to get it right this time. I also think it's another sign to wait for the middle round running back. As I said before, if you look at the top 50 or the top 50, I only have Ashton Jeanty and Amari Hampton in my top 50 as far as running backs, I believe. But as soon as you get outside the top 50, that's the sweet spot. That's where you see a lot of these guys. Dylan Sampson, if I have at 51. Caleb Johnson, I have at 52. Quinshon Judkins, I have at 54. Travion Henderson, I have at 60. Cam Scatterbo, I have at 61. DJ Giddens, I have at 68. Looking at those, there's a lot of options there. I even have RJ Harvey at 74. So in that group of 25 players just outside the top 50 of my rankings, there's plenty of those running backs. So my main takeaways here that the Steelers need to be, and I wrote about this in the Post-Gazette, but I'm going to give you a quick breakdown. The things that we've been hitting on, the reason I've been hitting on them is because when I do my analysis, unless I find something that contradicts what I'm looking at, that contradicts the research I'm doing, I'm going to keep hammering the point home that this is not the quarterback year, and this is a great year to strike on defensive tackle, but early. If you want to get a stud player, you can get depth players later, and I think that would even behoove the Steelers if they did both. But when it comes to when it comes to this class, there's certain aspects to it that are weaknesses. I think cornerback, if you're looking for an outside starting cornerback for the future, that gets tricky after the top 50. So you got to be on it if you're the Steelers. If you're on it in one way, that means you're going to be sacrificing it in another. If you're going corner early, that means you're missing out on D tackle early. So there's a lot of different directions that things could go with this draft class. But in my top 100, which again you can read at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and don't worry for those who are probably like, well, wait a minute, I want to hear more about this top 100 and where these guys are. We will be talking a lot about it over the next week and a half leading into next Thursday when the NFL draft starts. So don't worry, Steelers fans. We will have all that ready to go for you guys, and we'll be bringing this up a lot more. And in fact, we'll do it a little bit in the next segment, because the next segment, I give you my 2.0 Locked On Steelers mock draft. We're going to go over that next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I want to remind you that this show is also brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Sticks. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? You can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed. As easily as you stream your favorite shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, you can watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and many more. I stream so many different shows, it is great to have them all in one place. It's a major convenience. So, and also, I used to be a gamer. I don't game as much these days, but being able to play games and stream in the same place with just Amazon Fire TV Stick, that's wonderfully convenient. It's something you got to take advantage of right now. So be sure to head over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Q 3rd Gen. Amazon Fire TV. We're back here in the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. We continue our show here on Monday, heading into it's Monday, April 14th. So again, we have about a week and a half before the draft kicks off on the 24th, next Thursday. So just a reminder, going into this period of time, this is when we start to put things together. I always take more time to put together my top 100 board because I have a lot of notes, and next year will probably be easier because I won't have been covering college football and college basketball for an entire season leading into it and doing everything else. But this year we still needed time to kind of recover, do my research, put everything together. But we do have that now. And again, you can read the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. But one thing that I think is always important every year is when I rank guys in the top 50, you want to get at least two guys in the top 50. If you can do that, oftentimes, and it's not just my top 50, it's everyone's top 50. I think that when teams assemble their big boards, you want two guys inside your top 50 because those are often the prospects that you can have more confidence in actually working out because of their skill set. When you start to get out that, it starts to get even murkier. You can still get plenty of hits, of course, but that's when it just gets trickier and trickier. So there's plenty of hits that I think the Steelers have in that range there, and it's just going to be about capitalizing on them. And that's why I want to go over my next mock draft for you guys. I did one way back when that was on Locked On, and in fact, we had a caller call in and be like, "Hey, where's your latest mock draft?" And I'm like, "I hear you, it's coming." And so I'll reveal it to you because I think when you look at this mock draft, you'll get to kind of where I'm getting to about how to capitalize on that second wave of the top 50 and even on the players just outside the top 50 in my top 100 list. So with that, without further ado, here's the Locked On Steelers mock draft 2.0. In this draft class, I traded back. To, with the Chiefs to get the 31st overall pick, gave them the 21st overall pick. And with that, I picked up an early third round pick. They had the Titans third round pick at 66th overall, which doesn't get you a second round pick, but it gets you just outside that top 50, and it gets you two cracks on day 2 of the draft. And again, 3 picks in the top 100, one pick in the top 50, but 2 really close to there. And that's where I think it can really help the Steelers in this situation. Trading that with I think I gave up it was just the first round pick. I'm not 100% sure that the Chiefs would go for that. In real life, you can never be 100% sure, but I do think it makes sense. And I was talking about this with someone else, with a fan who was DMing me on Twitter, or I think they were just at me, but they were like, "Hey, like, what is it possible for the Steelers to get a second round pick just by trading back their first round pick?" I think that'd be very hard. As I said before, if that's happening, you're not just trading back 1 or 2 spots, you're trading back 9, 10, 11 spots. And again, like you're running out of space to do that because you're running into the Super Bowl teams. And I think that's where you could see a team like the Chiefs get aggressive. They want to win now. They want to try to make moves. They do that. You fall back, and then you're able to pick up Derrick Harmon in this draft class. In this simulation that I did, Kenneth Grant wasn't available, so I was like, okay, we'll trade back, see if we can get Harmon. We did, and so that was your 31st overall pick. But with that, you get the 66th pick from the Chiefs for trading back. And this is where I think the Steelers could really capitalize on this draft class. With the 66th overall pick, I went and got Tennessee running back Dylan Sampson. I love his tape. I love his speed. I love his explosiveness. I think that he could be a dangerous player for the Steelers, paired with Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. There is a lot of potential for that to be an explosive run offense. And then with the pick at 83rd overall, the natural Steelers third round pick, I actually went back to the offensive line. And some people might call me crazy for this, but I went and got Tate Ratledge, the guard out of Georgia. Tate Ratledge tested insanely in this. Also, if you see the numbers to the right in my top 100, they are the relative athletic score. If you don't know what the relative athletic score, shout out my boy Kenneth Lee Platt. That guy does a great job. He compiles basically, it's a rating of between 0 and 10, just how athletic a player is compared to the rest of their class. And so Tate Ratledge compared to every other interior offensive lineman was a 9.96 on the relative athletic score. He ran a great 40-yard dash. He's explosive. He's big. I think Tate Ratledge would be a great addition to the Steelers' future, their offensive line. Might not start right away, but I think what he would do is he would come in, he would push Mason McCormick, and then if Isaac Seumalo gets hurt, or if this is the last rodeo for him, then you got your next guard lined up in Tate Ratledge ready to go right there, which is why I had him as the third round pick there. So with this pick, you're addressing with that start of the draft. Now by trading back, you get that running back and that extra player that you think can factor into the long term. And that's where I think this draft has to be about. It has to be about the long term. Can't just be about the win now. This team is not a win now team. Build for the long term while staying competitive right now. And I think that's where you still want to, you can get a Derrick Harmon who can help you compete right now. You can get a Dylan Sampson who can help you compete right now. But you got to build these things, and it takes time. And I think that's where my mock comes in, is it kind of addresses both. Then in the fourth round, I went and got Will Howard. Again, I just think Will Howard is an ideal backup quarterback type that could work out for the Steelers. If he sticks around, he can get you some pinch wins here and there. The Steelers know all about that with their quarterback situation. And then finishing out the draft, I got Logan Brown for the Steelers, offensive tackle out of Kansas. The sixth round, getting Konate Mumpfield, the Pitt receiver that I've been covering. And again, there's a whole series on him. I think Konate Mumpfield's blowing up because his rankings in PFF skyrocketed from like the 200s into the 120s, I want to say, or 150s, I want to say. Now it hasn't caught up in their simulator because he gets named, but I think the grades haven't really caught up to when you pick him where he's actually really valued. Konate Mumpfield still gets like a low grade if you pick him, unless he's a seventh rounder. And I don't think that he's that. So I think that Konate Mumpfield it can be a really good separator wide receiver. We talked about that with Nick Farabaugh last week. And then finishing out one with Ty Robinson out of Nebraska as a defensive lineman. He and Derrick Harmon were the two leading pressures, had the two players that had the most pressures in college football last season as interior defensive linemen. That's huge. That's why I think that this could be a really big mix here. If you're looking at this mock draft, and again, looking at the board and how it shakes out. You want to get someone in the top 20 because you got Kenneth Grant. So now you want to pick, or you got Derrick Harmon, because Kenneth Grant wasn't available. It's like, okay, so how do you maximize on this? I really think the Steelers need to be active in the trade market to trade back in the first round if they so choose to, because I do think there's going to be opportunities out there. I do think there's going to be chances for the Steelers to make big moves, to take advantage of things. I think there's good players out there, good prospects who are going to be available in that middle area, just outside the top 50, within the top 100. I think that there's a legit opportunity there to strike on some really good deals. But I think the Steelers, again, when they're looking at how you're building up your big board, it depends on what they're going to be valuing, right? Like if I'm the Steelers, the Steelers might have let's say Shamar Stewart way higher than I am because he did test like a freak. I ranked him lower because looking at the Steelers and what they need. I just don't think Shamar Stewart is what they're going for. I think he's an interesting edge option. If he wants to move inside, I feel like he's going to have to prove a lot. They were already dealing with that DeMarvin Leal. I think the Steelers are willing to just go get the guys who they need to get to be a strong run team, to be a strong team against stopping the run, and set the foundation moving forward. So lots to go over there. But again, with my mock draft 2.0, Derrick Harmon, Dylan Sampson, Tate Ratledge, guard out of Georgia, Will Howard, quarterback out of Oklahoma or Ohio State, excuse me, Logan Brown, tackle out of Kansas. I think that the Steelers could use a swing tackle when you look at what their situation right now. So Logan Brown can be another piece of competition for that. And then Kanate Mumfield at wide receiver from Pitt, and Ty Robinson, Nebraska defensive lineman. I think this is a really good situation that the Steelers would have here. But we got to get to your thoughts on where the Steelers should go. We'll talk about that in the Mock Draft Monday episode here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, remind you, this episode is brought to you by Nissan. The Armada Player of the Week is brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, we'll be taking a look at our draft prospects to pick one guy that stands out, the guy we believe showcased the strength and power needed to push the Steelers forward as we look ahead to next season. This week's Armada clear-cut Player of the Week is Florida State cornerback Azariah Thomas. You've heard me talk about him a lot. Well, the Steelers could use another big physical cornerback who can pair with Joey Porter Jr. He looks to bully receivers and dominate them off the line of scrimmage, just like the Nissan Armada conquers the road with capability and confidence. When it comes to Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer, and that's exactly what I think Azariah Thomas could do in the Steelers secondary if they were able to pick him. It's clear that our Player of the Week is out here ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence. So just like you in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of their outstanding vehicles, take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. That's shopnissanusa.com. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. So we did something a little different for Mock Draft Monday here. I wanted to make you all do the thing that I've been saying the Steelers shouldn't do all offseason, even before the offseason, which is draft a quarterback in the first round. Now, a lot of people are like, Chris, how can you do this to us? The whole point is to see the exercise as far as what happens if that happens, because we're not completely ruling it out. We're not taking it out of the complete equation. But if the Steelers really feel like their guy at quarterback is sitting there and they got to go get him, then they're going to have to go get him. But I am not a Shedeur Sanders guy. I'm not a Jackson Dart guy. I think all those guys, fine backups. But I think that those guys, when you look at the quarterback position, you pick them in the first round, you are playing with fire. Because I think next year you're going to miss out on the first round talent from that year. You're going to miss out on the first round talent from this year that you could have not spent at quarterback. Just like in my mock, like again, fourth round for Will Howard. Again, capable backup. He'll play in the system. He'll grow in the system. That's something that you can do there. But again, like, yeah, so the challenge was to pick a quarterback in the first round and then try to see how you could build up from there. We did have a winner here because I thought it was interesting the way they did it. Also, when I give these type of assignments, if y'all tell me that you got, a quarterback in the first round, and then you show me that you got Kenneth Grant like in like the 78th overall pick or something like that, those picks are out the window. I don't think they got to be realistic or somewhat real as far as the mock drafts that are given there. And again, there's imagination that can happen, but I think that there's better ways to do it. But yeah, without further ado, let's get to this week's winner of the Mock Draft Monday, and that was Michael Owen Davis. Michael Owen Davis submitted these picks here. Follow the rules. It's another thing there because a lot of people didn't read the rules and follow them. But looking at this, I thought this was a great example of what I'm talking about as far as what you'd be sacrificing if you're the Steelers. You go with the quarterback early. Now, in Michael Owen Davis's situation, he picked Shedeur Sanders naturally. Didn't have to trade up. That was just it. Shedeur Sanders got in, and that's your quarterback. But look at the assembly of players that Michael gets after that. These aren't bad players. Shamar Turner, I think I have him. He's definitely my top 100. But like Shamar Turner, a good defensive lineman. In fact, I have him ranked 65th in this class. So, ideal-wise, like that's still a good deal for the Steelers to get a guy like that, as is Ollie Gordon, running back out of Oklahoma State. Just built like Jalen Warren, like a lot of people compare the two. I think that's fine. Pick at 124. Offensive tackle Jalen Rivers at 156, and then Aeneas Peebles at 185. Another defensive tackle that I really like is Aeneas Peebles. His ability to get after the quarterback is nasty. I think that he could be someone that you take a look at. But again, you're not looking for guys like Shamar Turner, Aeneas Peebles, who are going to be role players. You want guys to come in and wreck shop. I think that's part of what the Steelers are trying to get to right now. Is they're trying to have a way for them to build so when they go get their quarterback, they're ready to go next year. They're not ready right now. And I think with Shedeur Sanders, if you take him, the whole point of this exercise is if you take him, now all those first-round DTs, gone. They're not coming back around. And that would be a huge blow to the Steelers' plans, I think. They need to fortify that position better. So instead of grabbing, again, like in this situation, I would rank Shedeur Sanders in the 40s, waiting till later. If Shedeur Sanders falls to 21 and you can get someone to trade up for him, great, pick it up, because I think you're going to need more picks here, because again, look at how these picks worked out. You get a quarterback barely inside the top 50, and then Shamar Turner, a defensive tackle outside the top 50. Shamar Turner could work out, but he doesn't have the stud capabilities, the natural builds that Derrick Harmon has to be like Cam Hayward, and he's not as big and nasty as Kenneth Grant, and that's why he's just not a superstar as far as why he's not being I'm not saying he's going to be high up for the Steelers here and why he'd be available in the third round. But again, all that being said, you look at this mock draft from Michael, he kind of displays the point that I'm getting here while still getting some good players. If you sacrifice going after a star player who could be with you long-term in the first round for a quarterback that you're not, that a lot of people aren't sure, but especially if you aren't sure how they're going to be, that to me is problematic. That's to me is when something can happen there. And that's why I've been saying, I don't think they should go get a quarterback. They should just try to sign Shedeur Sanders or draft Shedeur Sanders, excuse me. I think that they need to keep building what they got, and I think that would go a long way to the Steelers building and being ready for when they do find their franchise quarterback, if they're able to hit it with a defensive tackle this year, and then a running back, and then maybe a corner or someone else. If they're able to do that, it's going to set everything up a lot nicer. And so for when they do get their franchise quarterback, and if they get that next year, which again looks like it could be several different options there, I think that would be a win, for the Steelers, if they could be just like Ben Roethlisberger when he had a young but developing offensive line. They came together. He had great protection. They were able to run the ball. They had playmakers. They had defense. That's what the Steelers are trying to rebuild right now. They're trying to set it up so that when they get their 04, or I guess when they get their version of rookie Ben Roethlisberger, that they've prepared their crops for rain and they're reaping the benefits. So yeah, that's where I think that the Steelers are there. And that's why I did this exercise of trying to get people to pick a quarterback in the first round, because it becomes a lot harder to address all these other positions when you take that quarterback that early and limit yourself there. But who knows? We'll see how things play out here as the weeks continue. I'm your host, Chris Carter of the Locked On Steelers podcast here. As always, you can find my work in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, post-gazette.com. Go read my top 100 if you want to see more of it and see my reasoning behind it, and also see behind my takeaways behind it. You can check all of that out there at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. You can also find me here on the Locked On Steelers podcast every day, Monday through Friday, on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes. We're back tomorrow with another episode of the Locked On Steelers podcast.